What did they say was the cause, guys? What was the cause? I got that. Maybe all the sessions got that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Asked the chairman, has he got the,
Sub to 212? Yes. It's in everybody's pack.
that sub B?
228S.
And get out.
Hey, Al.
Good morning. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We're going to start, and I'm going to ask Representative Perkle Hill opening prayer.
Bow with me, please, dear Heavenly Father. Lord, I thank you for this beautiful, beautiful morning that you have allowed us to wake up to this morning. And Lord, as they are parts of the state are preparing the land to plant the seed, Lord, I pray that you give them safety. Lord, as we undertake your work today and looking at legislation to make this great state even better, Lord, I pray that you give us wisdom. Lord, the authors of the bill that be here, Lord, I pray that you give them the words to say, and let our hearts be turned to you. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to start with 212. I'm going to ask Chairman Powell if he discuss the changes that was made to 212. It got sent back from rules.
LC 39222S 2228S. No changes except just the structure of the language. When this bill was drafted, it was, I'm not sure, I'm not going to say it was hastily drafted, but the changes was necessary last year. It was not in sync. It just looked better, and when it got to the Rules Committee, they took a look at it, and they thought there's a better way just to streamline to make the same. So there's no substantive changes to the bill. It just streamlines the wording of the bill.
All right. Do we have any questions on the bill? Who is number 9?
I'll be glad to remind folks what that bill does if they want me to.
Mr. Chairman, I fully support the change
All right. Do we have any questions? Well, at the proper time, we'll entertain a motion. We have a do pass and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Bill carries. Thank you. Keep reaching for my glasses. I left them in my office, but all right, we will do 138, House Bill 130. Well, let's do 137 first. How about that?
Submitted. 137 is a Tuskegee University tag bill, and you have to pass legislation in order to do it. And the requirement is you got to sell 1,200 tickets before they will print the first one, which means you take the revenue department about $25,000 check.
And all that's been done.
No, you have to pass the legislation, but before anything takes place with the tag, you got to give the revenue department that money
You got to
first.
pre-sale
Yes,
1,000
right.
tags. Yes.
Right. Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Any question number 7?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question, I'm reading in the bottom, it says it's supposed to be dispersed to the Atlanta Tuskegee Alumni Club, Inc.
What that is, they collect a fee to do it, and what the law says, you can't do it out of state. You got to be in the state of Georgia. So the Tuskegee Atlanta chapter is a 501c3. So that makes it where when they sell the tags, they can add a charge to it to put back to the university.
I guess my concern, same as we had a tag with the with Alabama A&M with Representative McClain a couple of weeks ago, is I know
This has been done before. We did one for Hampton University, but they had to be a 501c3 Georgia corporation.
okay, I guess
Nonprofit.
my question goes to if there is a Tuskegee Alumni Association, chapter, whatever you want to call it, in Augusta, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, anywhere in Georgia other than Atlanta.
Can't go but the one. And that is what's in the legislation, that it would go to that particular one. That money is dispersed back to the university, is what they basically do.
And do they sponsor a Georgia student with that money? And I think that's
Most
what
of the time,
he's
that is
getting at.
exactly what happens. They pay for scholarships for those
But not-
kids to go to Tuskegee.
Yeah, and not only getting at that, but what I'm really getting at is that if there are other chapters around, because you say you have to sell so many.
The other chapters cannot get any money. That money goes directly to the Atlanta chapter, which is a 501c3 that they disperse.
Okay, can I ask my question?
Sure.
Okay, my question is, you have to sell. You said so many tags. 1,200 tags.
Yeah, basically have to take the revenue department a $25,000 check.
So based on that, are we making the assumption, because the money's going to the Atlanta Association, that everybody who's buying those 1,200 tags are all sold in Atlanta?
No, they're sold all over the state of
Exactly,
Georgia.
right.
They're sold all over the state of Georgia. You have some alumni who don't have a local chapter at all.
But those that do have a local chapter, I guess my concern is, will those who do those other chapters, who have 501c3s, who are in the state of Georgia, they will not get any of this money unless they will not get any of the revenues from this right
None
here.
whatsoever.
Okay.
It go to the Atlanta chapter.
Thanks.
There ain't another question.
Number 10.
No, Mr. Chairman, I was just saying, I want to thank you at the appropriate time. I just want to have the due pass.
All right. And we didn't have a sign-up sheet. Did anybody in the audience wish to? Well, we did have a sign-up sheet. We didn't have anybody sign up to speak on that bill. So at the proper time, we will entertain a motion. Okay, I have a move and a, do we have a second? We have a move and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Bill
Thank you,
carries.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, now we'll do 138.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, committee, how are you? I appreciate you hearing SB 138. This is a bill that Mr. Steve Johnson, he's a former Atlanta police officer who lives in my district. He gave me a call. I actually met him on the campaign trail 5 years ago. Been kind of kept loose contact with him over the years. Whenever he had an issue, he always gives me a call. He's one of those involved citizens that we all have, and he's an excellent, he's a fine man, and I appreciate his input over the years. He alerted me to a situation this just a few months ago, actually during session, where he had purchased a vehicle. The vehicle had not worked out, so he sold the vehicle. Then he had to buy another vehicle. He's not a man who makes a lot of money. Like I said, he's a disabled police officer from the city of Atlanta. He lives off of his pension. He had a disability benefit. I believe he has that as well. So he had bought a pickup truck. It didn't work out for him. He had to sell it. Of course, he had to pay TAVT on that pickup truck. Then he bought another pickup truck. Again, not expensive vehicles, but he had to pay the TAVT again on the next pickup truck, which thankfully did work this time. However, the burden on him, not a huge tax bill. However, for somebody who's on a very fixed income, limited fixed income, it was a pretty severe burden on him. He brought up the fact that for our disabled veterans, we give them certain benefits. This bill does not, SB 138 does not attempt to give every benefit that we give disabled veterans to our disabled first responders, but what it does is it tries to go ahead and move forward with a couple of those benefits. Those are, and if you look in the bill, the first thing that this bill would do is provide those disabled first responders, which we use you ask, hey, what is the definition of a disabled first responder? We actually cite the code section 45-9-85. That is a place where we already identify and pay a benefit to law enforcement, firefighters, and others that are injured in the line of duty and that receive, we actually pay them an indemnification payment for their disability or for their death. So what we would do is in Section 1, we would provide them with a free license plate. Similar, that we do that exact thing for our disabled veterans, currently. So it kind of follows that same structure using this piece of the code, the Georgia code that already exists to qualify them. Now there's a section in there because the question was, what if somebody is wrongfully doing something on the job, maybe breaking a law, maybe they're operating their vehicle unsafely, maybe they're doing something that was improper when they were injured. There is some language in here that would prevent someone who was under investigation, had been suspended, had been revoked, and that's on lines. It begins on line 25, I believe, and goes down through 29, and that's actually repeated in Section 2 as well. So there is some protection to make sure that we're not rewarding someone who has behaved poorly while serving. So that's what we do. We give them 2 license plates, and then they also qualify for 1 motorcycle plate as well if they have a motorcycle. So that's Section 1. Section 2 will actually help the situation I explained that Mr. Johnson had. That would provide them an exemption from TAVT. And there is a limit that was placed in Senate. I don't have the current version of the bill here. I have the old bill that I was working from, but there was a limit that was placed in there. If you don't mind, because the question was, what if this person had a $200,000 motorhome, that would be a pretty severe. Maybe they had done well with their investments or different things. Maybe they were somebody who had just made a lot of money over the years, and they had an exemption on a couple $100,000 motorhome, and then maybe a luxury automobile. So we put a limit in there. I believe it was 75,000, 50,000. So it's 50,000 in value, not 50,000 of TAVT, but 50,000 in value over a 3-year period. So we put that in there to make sure that it wasn't being abused. And then finally, in Section 3, we make sure that we confirm that they would not be taxed on state sales tax, state income tax for their disability payments and disability benefits if they're disabled on the job. So that's the bill. I think it'd go a long ways towards assisting our first responders who are injured while serving us, and I appreciate your favorable consideration.
We got a couple questions, but first, was there a fiscal note required on this?
I have one.
You
Yes, sir.
have one, okay.
And I wished I'd have. I should have made copies. I apologize for not getting that out.
Uh, 431305S, then in parentheses SCS. Isn't that right? I had to get back here where I can see it. I left my glasses at home.
I was gonna say I'd give this to you, but you don't have your glasses, so I'll.
I can get back here and read it.
And I'll just tell you what we have. And then I'll hand this to you. The total state and local revenue loss is estimated at local revenue impact 16,005 in 2020, and then it goes up to 29,500 in 2024. The state revenue impact is 45,600 in 2020, and it goes to 79,000, let's say 700 in 2024. And I'll give you my copy. And of course, they break that down. With the different sections within the fiscal note. It's not a large impact on the state or on local revenue.
All right, well, we've got a few questions. Number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Martin. You know, I guess my only question is that I keep saying the word surviving spouse, and I didn't know if that was the same language in the military as well, or if that was something that you added.
It just tracks the language in 45.985. There's the indemnification. It deals with, so the surviving spouse would also qualify for the TAG and the TAVT exemption until they are remarried. If they remarry, then they lose the benefit. And also minor children. So I guess if a child was 16 and had a vehicle, they would also qualify for that underneath that free TAG, but they're not going to own a vehicle.
Thank you. Follow, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So only 2 tags, what you're saying, 2 tags on the motorcycle. So
That's correct.
okay. Thank you.
That does model the veteran language.
All right. Number 14.
All right, so on my question's on line 42. There are going to be 2 tags, one on the front and one on the rear of the vehicle?
I believed we had fixed that language. Is that still in the?
It says such plates shall be fastened to both the front and the rear of the vehicle on line 42.
I believe that would be a place where the House could perfect this bill.
Okay.
Mr. Representative.
And then, and the minor child on line, if I can.
Yes.
Line 51, when you talk about the minor child, so when the child turns 16, he can run the tag on there if he's a surviving minor child.
I believe that's correct.
And then when he turns 18, then he's got to turn the tag in.
That's correct.
Okay.
However, his mother, if his mother's still in the vehicle, she would continue to be able to have that tag as long as she was not remarried.
Would you mind if we add a little language to that minor child to clarify, maybe just a little clarification until the 18 years of age or something like that?
I mean, I don't mind. No, I don't know that it's necessary. I would lean on.
Is it okay?
She's getting.
I'm asking a question for my counterpart over here. He's a little shy. If y'all hadn't noticed. Thank you.
All right. Number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going to line 35, let me just make sure I'm clear here. A disabled person gets 2 tags, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is
Yes,
that
Mr. Representative.
consistent with disabled veterans?
That's what I've been told, yes, sir.
I would check that.
Okay.
And now, not only do they get, based on this, not only do they get the tags, they're getting their validation or whatever we call it, the
Correct. The renewals, the renewal.
renewals every year.
Correct.
Okay, so they,
I mean,
have we thought about the impact, and not so much on the larger counties, but those rural areas that also collect, taxes on these things? And
I mean, it's included it within the fiscal note, and I apologize, I didn't make copies for the committee prior to this, but it is not estimated to be a very large impact at all on the, I mean, the renewal fees are what, $20 for the decal?
well, I think the renewal fee is based on the price of the vehicle, isn't that correct?
Very few of those anymore. I know that most of the ad valorem tax has gone away. So I think the biggest impact is going to be on that TAVT, Representative, and that goes to the state. I'm sure there still are vehicles that are out there that are still under the old system that people have owned for, I guess, 6 or 7 years now. But those are starting to phase out. Thank you.
Number 9.
I'm trying to get a grip on this, and I might want to ask our legislative council on line 40, and I'm still the one that Mr. Ridley asked about. Are we consistent of doing
I
the?
don't know why we did that with disabled veterans. Everyone is having the same question that I had when I first read it, that why are we doing 2 on the front and back? Because it's pretty much, we don't do front and back for almost anything else. So it does track, like you said, the disabled veteran stuff, but I'm not sure why we ever did it that way for disabled veterans, because it doesn't seem.
Yeah, because we're not, Georgia's not a state where we put them.
Just for the vehicle, so it's one front and back, you're not getting 2 for 2 different cars. But, for clarity, we might want to consider going forward only doing 1, since we don't do front and back on anything else really.
So in this, if I might ask the leg council again. Yes. So we're not talking about 2 vehicles, we're talking about 1 vehicle. So we're not giving,
Two tags
giving
was-
these disabled first responders 2 vehicles.
No, but once they pass, it does transfer to the spouse or minor child eligibility.
Second question to the author, you made mention of, over on, section 2, you made a mention about RV. Now, there's nothing in here about an RV. Goes up to 3/4 ton. If I'm reading this right, goes to 3/4 ton. So they couldn't go buy, a RV. If I'm reading this
Mr.
right.
Chairman, I think you may be right. Of course, the Senate Finance Committee does not have the same expertise as the House Motor Vehicles Committee when it comes to the rules of the road. So there may have been some overzealousness on their part.
If I may, one
Yes.
more. And this isn't so much a question to the author, because he's a great guy. He's handling a few bills for me over in the Senate that somehow fell in a dark hole last time he died in the Senate. But if I might just offer something to him, when you get into section 2 and 3, these are things that get into perilously close to the Ways and Means business. And I'm afraid that if this thing hits to the House Rules Committee, because of sections 2 and 3, this bill may not see daylight for the next, and that's just a suggestion.
Well, as you know, I'm fairly good friends with the Chair of Ways and Means. I've discussed this with him, and I can continue to do that. And of course, I was not responsible for the assignment for this committee, but I appreciate that advice, and I'll discuss that maybe with the Speaker's office.
Number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you talked a little bit about numbers, and I didn't get that down quite when we were talking about the physical impact. Could you go over that again? And why we don't have
I handed off that document to the chair.
Okay.
It's would you like me to?
Yeah, I don't have my glasses, would you read that again? I think it was 16 and 25 local impact over the, from 2020 to 2025 and
Yeah,
45 to
16 to
70.
29.
16 to
16,000.
45 to 79 on the state level.
That's
if I-
correct.
if I
So
wrote that
16,
down.
2020, it's 16,570, if you want it specific. And then it ranges up to fiscal year 2024, 29,493. So I said 29,500. And then the state revenue impact, and that's statewide, right? And the state revenue impact starts at 45,600, and in 2024 it's $79,666.
Okay, that's all the questions I see, and I think we had some changes that might need to be made. And we're gonna have another meeting tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Can we get with Ledge Council and take care of clear that language up and have a
And I'm not sure if we want to. I think the chair on the end, Mr. Powell, my friend, I think he brought up, and I don't know if it's in the wisdom to do this. I don't know if we want to fix the veteran plate at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense to go ahead and fix them both. I don't know if it's under the same exact code section. If that gets perilous, then maybe not. But anyways, just an idea that was popping in my head when he was mentioning that one also tracks funny as well.
Okay. All right. And who'll be carrying this bill in the House if we pass it out tomorrow?
Chairman Powell.
All right. Thank you. So we will hold this one until tomorrow with changes, and then we will move on to Senate Bill 227.
I believe this will be a little shorter presentation.
You might have more questions.
I may. The first thing this does, when this passed out of the Senate, it created the Boys and Girls Club specialty tag. My picture's smaller today. I apologize than it was when I last presented, but it'll benefit the Georgia Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs Incorporated. And then we have a committee substitute that also adds in
Autism awareness.
a special license plate promoting autism awareness, and the funds will benefit the Autism Alliance of Georgia for that one.
Do we have any questions? No. All right. We have a motion to pass. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
PK, who's carrying this bill for you? Matthew Gamble. All right, I think that's all the bills you have today, but we will have another meeting. I think it's scheduled for 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, but there'll be a notice going out to everybody. So, all right, this adjourns our meeting.